the story of the Declaration of Independence. Of course, imagine a time long before video games, smartphones, or even electricity. This is the story of a very important letter. A letter that was like a breakup text and a birth certificate all rolled into one for the United States of America. Imagine your whole neighborhood was run by a principal who lived thousands of miles away across a giant ocean. This was the situation for the American colonists. They were ruled by Great Britain, and their leader was King George III. At first, things were okay. The colonies grew and felt pretty independent. They built their own towns and had their own local governments. But then, King George and the British government started making new rules and demanding more money, which they called taxes. They put a tax on sugar, on newspapers, and even on tea. The colonists felt this was totally unfair. Why? Because they didn't have a single person in the British government to speak up for them. It was like a principal making rules for your class without ever asking your teacher or any of the students what they thought. The colonists had a saying for this: no taxation without representation. They tried everything to solve the problem. They wrote letters. They protested, like at the Boston Tea Party, where they dumped a whole shipment of tea into the harbor. But the king and his government just wouldn't listen. Instead, they sent more soldiers and made even stricter rules. We've had enough! Finally, a group of leaders from the 13 colonies, called the Continental Congress, got together in a big room in Philadelphia. They included famous people like John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and a quiet, tall man named Thomas Jefferson. They decided that writing angry letters wasn't enough. It was time for a real breakup. They needed to write a letter to the king and to the whole world, explaining exactly why they were going to become their own country. Thomas Jefferson was chosen to write the first draft because he was a beautiful writer. He holed himself up for days, and with a quill pen and ink, he wrote the words that would change the world. What the Declaration actually said, the simple version. The Declaration of Independence is like a 3-part essay. Part 1, the big idea. This is the most famous part. Jefferson started by saying that there are some truths that everyone just knows are true. He wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." This was a huge idea. In a world of kings and queens, he was saying that no one is born better than anyone else. Then, he listed 3 basic rights that every single person has, and that no government can take away. Life, the right to be safe and live. Liberty, the right to be free and make your own choices. The pursuit of happiness, the right to chase your dreams and live a life that makes you happy. The Declaration says that the whole reason governments even exist is to protect these rights, and if a government tries to take them away, the people have the right to change it or start a new one. Part 2, the list of complaints. This was the main part of the breakup letter. It was a long list, like really long, of all the unfair things King George had done. It was Jefferson's way of showing the world they had good reasons for wanting to be independent. It included things like, "You sent soldiers to live in our houses without our permission. You taxed us without our say-so. You won't let us trade with other countries. You shut down our governments when we disagreed with you." Part 3. The official breakup. The final part is short and to the point. It says that because of all these reasons, the 13 colonies are now officially breaking up with Great Britain. They declared themselves free and independent states. They were no longer colonies. They were the United States of America. Signing their names. On July 4, 1776, the leaders in the Continental Congress approved the Declaration. Signing it was a very brave thing to do. If they lost the war against Britain, the king would see them as traitors, and they would likely be executed. One man, John Hancock, signed his name so big and bold that he said, "The king can read that without his glasses." From that day on, the colonists weren't just fighting against unfair taxes. They were fighting for their freedom, for their new country, and for the big ideas in their new birth certificate, the Declaration of Independence. And that's why every year on the 4th of July, we celebrate with fireworks and parades,